What do you do if you can't afford a brand new $10,000 to $26,000 tester? Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by technicians, installers, project managers, estimators, ICT personnel, and even the customers. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being created? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? And if it's not a 5-star show, email me. Let me know what I need to do to make this a 5-star show. Those two little steps helps us take on the algorithm, which helps us get the message out to educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? I do a live stream on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere almost, where I answer your favorite questions on design, installation, certification, project management, estimation, and even career path questions. But I can hear you now. But Chuck, I'm driving my truck at 6 p.m. on Thursdays. I don't want to get into an accident. They're recorded, and you can watch them on the website at letstalkcabling.com. And finally, if you find value in this content and you would like to help support this platform, click on the QR code right there, and you can buy me a cup of tea. You can schedule a 15-minute one-on-one Zoom call with me after hours, of course. And also, I'm looking for corporate sponsors as well. So if you're a company that your values line up with educate, encourage, and enrich, let's talk. As I mentioned in the intro, testers, they're expensive, but they're worth it. Problem is, a lot of new companies starting out may not necessarily have the funds to go out and buy a brand spanking new tester. What do? Do you compromise and buy a lesser grade tester? Do you buy a used tester and maybe potentially inherit somebody else's problems? What do you do? Because money is a big factor with new companies starting up. So what I did was I was walking around the Bixie Trade Show and I came across the booth of people whom I've used in the past, even though at the time I worked for a large contractor. We still use them. And the company was Rentelco, where you can rent telecommunications testing equipment. So I asked them, hey, would you like coming on the show? And guess what they said? Welcome to the show, Ben Hart from Rentelco. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Chuck. Nice to meet you.
Same here as well. Same here as well. So we can gain some authenticity and some authority with the audience. Just give us a 30-second. Who are you? What training certifications you have, and the company you work for?
Okay, I'm Ben Hart. I'm a senior product manager with TRS Rentelco. I've been in the test equipment rental and leasing business from right out of college, right out of UCSD, and for about 32 years now. 25 of that with TRS and 23 as a product manager at TRS. We have a wide variety of equipment. Over the years, I've handled, I think, every single category we actually have. Right now, I handle wireline and optical telecommunications, test equipment, as well as RF spectrum analysis and our industrial portfolio. I'm also leading an effort we introduced earlier last year, distribution of certain OEMs, and I'm leading that effort.
Very nice. So it sounds to me like you're qualified. So I
I
think the
hope so.
audience, I think the audience should listen to you.
Yeah.
So the podcast, my two major audience sections, right? Geographics, whatever you want to call it. One is the newer people who just got into the industry, want to learn, and the other one is project managers, people who just got promoted to being a project manager or an estimator, and also on top of that, they may have even started their own company. So there's a lot of people listening to me that started their own companies, and now they're starting to realize, man, all that stuff that we need to have. Well, when they go out and price a brand new tester, like I said, it can range from $9,000 to $26,000, and starting with a new company, you ain't got that kind of money. So, what kind of testers and certifiers do you rent to somebody in that scenario?
Well, we handle all the big manufacturers, so Expo, Fluke, Softing, Trend Networks, Viavi Solutions. Those are kind of the big certifier names that come to mind. We do the copper certification equipment, we do optical certification equipment, OTDRs, OLTS sets, power meter, light source, inspection. For that particular application, we've got it pretty much soup to nuts, and we have that for a lot of other applications as well.
I'm glad you said it because people who listen to my show aren't just knuckle dragging cable guys. Some of them are network guys who do network installs. Some of them are security, doing voice over control. Some of them do a lot of wireless. What kind of tools and stuff do you rent for somebody in that segment?
Well, I'm actually glad you asked about that because we have a very large inventory of wireless test equipment. When I told Brian Dodson, our wireless product manager, that I was coming on the show, he said to be sure and mention at the very least, PCTEL and Ritsu and Keysight, Rody Schwartz, all those guys out there. Saf Tanika is a new partner of ours. They do a lot of the PIM hunting and smaller spectrum analyzers, handheld spectrum analyzers. So we have all of that equipment as well.
So let me ask you this, and this question is not on the in the list of questions I submitted
Mhm.
earlier, but I'm pretty sure you probably answer it. Do you only rent to contractors in the U.S. or do you rent outside of the U.S. as well?
TRS Rentelco is a global company. We have outside sales in let's see, Taiwan, or I'm sorry, not Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Kuala Lumpur, India, Mexico, and we have a sales office in Canada as well. So we're across the globe.
Very cool. I did not know that. See, I learned
Hmm.
something new today. Nice, nice. And I was actually, it's funny you mentioned Kuala Lumpur. Um,
Hmm.
I actually attended an RCDD study group virtually, of course,
Right.
this week, and the host was in Kuala Lumpur. I had to actually look up
Okay.
8 p.m. Kuala Lumpur to Eastern Standard Time. Luckily,
Right.
it wasn't 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it can
yeah,
be quite a difference.
yeah, absolutely. So let's say I'm a small contractor. Okay, I've never done
Hmm.
business with you before, and I have a need for a certifier. Right?
Hmm.
You didn't mention AEM. Do you have them as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay, yeah, you didn't mention them because I said because I usually have an AEM tester sitting right there, but it's currently being calibrated.
Okay.
um, so let's say again, I'm a small contractor. I reach out to Rentelco and I say I need a tester. Again, never done business for you. What does that process kind of look like before I actually get the tester?
Um, so you're going to call in. You're going to be directed to an inside salesperson that handles the geography you're calling from, and they will help you determine what piece of equipment you need, or you may already know. You call, you say, I need a Fluke XYZ. That's what you're going to get. Versive or something like that. Or if you just say, I need to certify copper and fiber, they'll walk through it with you, talk about the various options that we have available, and determine the best equipment to fit your application. And then once that's done, then of course all the wonderful business side of it, you got to set up an account and send us some credit references and that sort of thing. Yeah,
That's
we all.
that's what I was that's what I was kind of curious about
Yeah.
was do you have to have some kind of a credit because you're basically loaning a very expensive piece of test equipment to
Hmm.
somebody. That's why I prefaced the way that I did. Um, you're loaning a very expensive piece of test equipment to somebody you don't necessarily know who it is, right?
Right. And our credit department will look at your credit situation. They may ask for a deposit. They may ask for ACH payment, online payment or credit card payment. But we can do all of those things to make it as easy as possible for your situation.
Okay, so now that we've got the payment out of the way, is there and I'm not going to ask you what pricing is because there's so many factors in pricing, right? Is it do
Right.
you is it a super expensive tester versus one that's less expensive? Are you running it for just one day or 2 months? But as an overall percentage of buying a piece of equipment, what ballpark range would that kind of fall under?
Uh, In general, say a month rent is going to fall likely somewhere between 5 and 10% of the cost of the instrument.
Okay. And the reason I asked for that is because there's got to be some kind of a break-even point where somebody's going to say, well, I got 5 projects or 10 projects lining up. And if it's between 5 and 10%, at some point maybe they might want to consider just buying one. But the good thing about renting equipment is you get to let your techs run with it, and then they get to give you feedback and say, yeah, no, don't get that tester, right? So that's a good thing about renting is that I can foresee right out of the gate, right? Let me ask you this: so how do I know if I'm renting a piece of equipment? I don't remember if this actually shows up on my list or not. How do I know if I'm renting a piece of equipment that it's been calibrated, it's got the latest software up on it, and or the guy who rented it before me didn't drop it on the floor and break it?
Well, we have a lot of internal processes for that. We've got a 20,000 square foot lab with 30 plus technicians there. It's A2LA accredited to 17025. We can calibrate everything that we own up to
Oh, nice,
67 gigahertz. Yeah, overall, out of our $600+ million inventory, we calibrate greater than 80% of it in house.
nice. That's really cool.
And so we're also, since we are closely aligned with the manufacturers, we're one of the very few cal houses outside of Fluke that can uh, calibrate the Fluke certifiers, so the Versiv platform. Um, so we have all of the artifacts and to the software to do that. Um, we also, of course, on incoming, we inspect the accessories, anything that's semi-consumable, patch cords or things like that. They get replaced as needed.
Right.
Um, a lot of these guys might use splicers. We make sure the electrodes when they go out are either new or have very few splices on them. So you're not going to get a set of electrodes that you start with in the morning and need to replace after three splices.
Right.
So yeah, we try to make sure that everything goes out in perfect working order with good accessories, and I think the guys at least in our facility do a fantastic job of it.
I like the fact that you calibrate your own stuff. That's cool. And you're right. There's some of the manufacturers don't allow people, just anybody, to calibrate their stuff. And
That's correct.
there are some testers out there. Oh, let me back up. Do you
Mhm.
offer calibration services for other people's equipment?
No, we don't.
Okay,
We have agreements with some OEMs where we do some work for them, but they interface with the customer directly.
gotcha. Okay, good. Because I get asked that question quite often. Chuck, my test manufacturer came out with a new tester, but I still got this one here that I spent $17,000 on, and why can't I still use it? Well, it needs to be
Mhm.
calibrated, and they don't calibrate anymore. So
Right.
that's why I was asking that particular question, right?
Hmm.
So let's say that I'm looking to buy. Actually, I know a guy who's doing this. He walked around with me at Bixie. He's looking at several testers. He's a small little company. He's only been in business for 3 or 4 years, and he's kind of trying to figure out which tester he wants to buy. And again, like I said, it's a significant investment. Do you think it's a good idea to maybe rent from you? Maybe on one project rent tester A, another project tester B, and then another project tester C as an evaluation process for purchasing, pre-purchasing?
That's a that is a great idea. That's one of the advantages of renting. You know, you can try it, you can see if you like it. Um, that's a great way to do it. It also helps with managing cash flow and costs for project. If you're doing project to project, even in your example where you said you got 5 projects lined up, if they're for different service providers or different buildings or different customers basically, then it may actually still work out that you've got operating expense you can spend on the test equipment rather than capitalizing it and then having the depreciation expense yourself.
Very cool. I like that. Yeah, because testers are a significant investment. And it's funny, if you want to start an argument on the internet in one of the low voltage channels, just ask the question, should I certify or should I not certify? Oh my Lord. To me, it's simple as day. Yes, you
Yes.
always certify every cable you run and pull.
Mhm.
Now, whether or not you
I
sell the test result to a customer is a different conversation. But at minimum,
Mhm.
you should be certifying, right?
Yeah, yeah, at the very
That's
least if you're pulling cable you should give it a birth certificate.
I've heard that term before. But I've never
Yeah.
used that term before. I just
Oh,
kind of shows you, So you have lots of equipment. Do you ever sell used test equipment?
yes. And
Nice.
all of the processes that I talked about, calibration, accessory refresh, etc., they go into the used gear we sell. And then we have a wide variety of finance options with very low interest rates. Right now, we're doing a program we call Freedom Lease. It kind of gives you a lot of different options. I won't go into all of them, but one of the hooks we've got on it right now is we're going to beat the Fed as far as the interest rate is concerned. So on approved credit, you're going to get some really good interest rates, and that is for used equipment and new distribution equipment. So some really good rates on equipment, and we do all of our own financing. So there's no bank, no third party, no origination fee, no document fees,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, we try to make it really easy for a customer to rent or own on new or used equipment.
That's absolutely cool. I like the fact that you don't go through a bank because well, I know why you're doing it as a company, but that's going to streamline the process for a small contractor. Um, and when you said you do your inspections and stuff, how often do you find that maybe something needs to be replaced? Like maybe the pins are bent on the channel head, or maybe the tabs are broken off on the permanent link heads for copper certifiers. How often do you come across that?
You know, I don't know. I would actually have to run some reports to see, or at
Oh,
least check with
gotcha.
the lab. One of our lab techs would probably know right off the bat, but I don't know that. I do know, or I can tell you that on our incoming process, one of the things that we do is as soon as it hits the door, our receiving line will scan it. They'll get a picture of the accessories. So if something's broken or missing, they notify
Mhm.
the customer as soon as it hits the door, and we give them 10 days to return it. So that cuts down on some of the stuff you're talking about.
Right.
Uh, but and if it's broken or whatever, they can report it right away, and we determine if it was customer damage or it's just wear and tear. And if it's wear and
Gotcha.
tear, we replace it.
What's the difference between general wear and tear and abuse?
Um, well, if the connector is pulled off the end, it's probably abuse. If when
True.
when we inspect the input port on an OTDR, if it's scratched beyond belief and needs to be replaced, then it might be customer abuse. If it's worn down, and the SC connector just no longer slots right, then it's probably just wear and tear.
Gotcha.
And so
Gotcha.
our guys look for that stuff, and they try to be as nice about it as they can.
Absolutely, because it's a mutually beneficial relationship. You got test
Hmm.
gear, you got customer needs it, and you guys
Hmm.
can't survive without each other.
Right, right.
Um, so my next question is, when you ship it out, do you take pictures or document it as it's going out? And then also on the flip side, do you require the contractor to sign for the tester when they I say he, but they when they receive it?
Um, as far as the on the shipment, we do take or we do save photos of the optical connectors under the inspection microscope. We save those, but not the actual unit itself. The unit, our standards are the unit has to be in very good shape. If there are any dings or scratches, they're noted on the asset level, so we know that that was our problem, not the customer.
Right.
And then as far as when we ship it, we're going to ship it however the customer requests it to be shipped. So if it goes FedEx or UPS, they're going to determine whether it needs a signature on the other end.
If I'm renting a piece of equipment and I'm shipping back this very expensive piece of equipment, do you, as part of the rental price, is the return shipping incorporated, or is that going to be my burden to back to you?
The
And do
the
I have to
return
insure it?
the return shipment is on the customer. Uh,
Okay,
it's the way the rental works is from the moment it leaves our dock until it gets back to our dock, it is the customer's responsibility.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: so you guys have testers,
Hmm.
right? Lots of testers, copper and fiber, and some other stuff we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
Do you guys participate in any of the standard committees that helps develop the testing standards?
We don't participate in the standards committees directly. We are in contact with the product management teams for the various OEMs that make the equipment, and so we give them customer feedback or feedback even from our own lab because our lab sees so many testers going through, and so we try to get that feedback directly to them. And as I'm sure you know, all of the OEMs participate in those committees, and so they take that feedback from us and incorporate it.
Because I would think of anybody who has the most valuable input would be you guys, because you get it goes back and forth, and you get to see it. I guarantee your testers get used a lot more than a tester sitting in a contractor's office. I
It,
guarantee.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you were talking about things that do get worn out, PLA cables. We replace those by the bushel full.
Coming from Maryland, I appreciate the term bushelful because I love to go crabbing,
Good.
and we catch crabs by the bushel. So
Yes,
absolutely,
right, right.
yeah. Um, you may not know this. This might be another question for your your tech person, but on average, how often do you think that those test heads or patch cords have to be replaced?
What I would say is we're probably more aggressive than what the manufacturer suggests. I think, and don't hold me to this because I haven't looked at a spec sheet lately, but I think a PLA cable is supposed to be 5,000 insertions,
Right.
and I I would doubt that they make it that far with us. It'd probably be in the, three to four
Gotcha.
thousand insertion kind of when we would say that needs to be replaced.
Right, because you got customer satisfaction sitting hanging off that cord, and you don't want a contractor with a crew of guys sitting on a job site somewhere with one of your testers not being able to test, because you're gonna have a very angry phone call coming at you if
Exactly.
that
We don't want
happens.
that.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So we talked about certifiers. Um, what about like network analyzers or sniffers, or maybe like a PC tel for doing indoor coverage? Do you rent those kinds of pieces of equipment as well?
We definitely do. As I was alluding to, we've got the Enritsu, the PCTEL, Keysight, all of the RF tools that you could possibly need for anything from cable sweep to coverage testing, interference hunting, PIM hunting. Um, you know, those are definitely things that we have in our portfolio.
Right. Let me ask you another question.
Mhm.
So let's say I decide I want to rent a new certifier from you. We'll go back to the example of the contractor who's renting three different testers off you, or four different testers off you, to kind of figure out which one they want to purchase. But they may not necessarily have the training and know how to operate. Do you rely on the manufacturer to give them training, or is there something you have internal that helps a contractor understand the nuances of the testers?
For training, we rely on the manufacturers to do the training. We do actually co-sponsor webinars, and we do have training at our facility from time to time for the various manufacturers. Um, so we don't do that ourselves. We rely on them. They're the experts. Um, what we do have for someone who's familiar but not, maybe not 100% sure of what they're doing is we have 24/7 tech support. And our tech support for our rentals is three-tiered. The first tier is, our customer service people who will, answer it's missing an accessory, it's dead out of the box for some reason. Hopefully that never happens, but it does occasionally. So if there's a situation like that, our customer service reps will take care of it. If it's a basic setup question, I just got to the job site, I turned it on, and I think I got it set up right, but can you help walk me through it? The CSR will send them to one of the bench techs that actually works on that type of equipment.
Oh, okay.
And that bench tech will walk them through basic setups, and some of the more normal use cases and that sort of thing. If it becomes a very serious, and this is more usual on higher end equipment, not necessarily on a certifier, but if it's a case where it's a very specific question, then our third tier is we get the OEM involved.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So you said you rent. Do you do
Mhm.
long-term leasing?
Yes, we do. We do. We do both operating lease and capital leases. I think I talked about the capital leases a little bit, but we definitely do the operating leases where, you don't end up paying the entire amount, just like you would with a car.
So for the small contractors who might be listening, it's not like you have to go and put $20,000, $10,000 on your credit card. There's options, and I like the options that
Yeah.
you laid out. See, I didn't know you guys did the long term leasing. I've always known
Hmm.
about the renting and stuff, and I used to use your your tools, rent your tools.
Hmm.
The company I work for, I won't say who it is, but they're a very large company in eastern Pennsylvania. With the colors are green and yellow.
Okay.
And so we had a
Hmm.
lot of testers. But the problem is when I needed a tester for a project, they were always all out.
Hmm.
So I've used you guys on many, many occasions.
Yeah.
Um, and here's the thing: if I rent your tester, the advantage to me is now I have a definable cost that I can associate with my project, as opposed to an overhead cost, which gets spread across all the projects that nobody can really know or even control what it is.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of advantages to renting, and that is definitely one of them. Um, Also, we do with our 24/7 support, if you call and something does happen to that unit, or you've had it for a couple of months and the calibration is out. I should preface that with, we don't ship anything that has less than 3 months calibration
Oh, nice.
unless you tell us we can. So but if you get to say the 6th month and the calibration is now expired, you pick up the phone and you say, hey, the cal on this one's expired, and we send you one the next day.
Nice, nice.
And
Let's let,
so, yeah, go ahead.
let's
Sorry.
let's talk a little bit about your stock levels, right? I mean,
Hmm.
is there ever is should a contractor ever worry about calling you up to rent a piece of equipment because you only have X number and they're all out on rentals?
I can't say they should never worry because, I mean, we have, like I say, we have about a $600 million inventory. That's across about 5,000 models.
That's a
So
lot
there
of testing.
are, yeah, so there are cases where, of this particular test set, we may only have this many. Now, in a lot of cases, we can go get more. Um, or something will come in. It's nature of the rental business, it comes and goes.
Right.
um, so it really depends on what you're looking for and how specific it has to be. If you need a single mode OTDR, for instance, and you're not real picky about it being Exvo, Viavi, Fluke, etc., I can tell you I will 99.99% of the time be able to send you a single mode OTDR today.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But if you want the specific model number, then maybe I might be out at some point.
Gotcha. Well, as a project manager, if you're a good project manager, the testing's not going to sneak up on you. You're going to know, a week or 2 weeks or maybe even longer when you're going
Hmm.
to need to test her. So, is there a plan in place at Rentelco where if I call them and say, "Look, I'm going to need a piece of test equipment, but I'm not going to start testing until," and they give you a date and it's 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, would that help ensure that they get the right tester that they want, or was that help
We
the process?
we would love it if customers did that. Most customers, unfortunately,
Putting out the
wait
fire.
wait wait till the last minute, or like in the case you were talking about, they do have a tool pool and they assumed they could get it and now they can't. So it's a lot of fire drills. Those that do plan, we absolutely, we love all of our customers, but those are the ones that are easier to serve a little bit.
Right. 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 Right.
And
Right.
yeah, now we do have some advantages in that. We're centrally located at the DFW airport, so we have sales coverage in our building until 8 p.m. And our last shipments for UPS and FedEx don't go out until 10.
Wow. That's
So
late.
yeah,
That's late.
so we usually can accommodate those last minute things, but we love the planners.
Yes, a good project manager will plan.
Yeah,
But you're right. There's a lot of times where, like you said, normally you open the cabinet drawer and there's usually 3 or 4 testers in there, and guess what? They're all out,
right,
and
right.
you got a crews going out testing like tomorrow or the next day. So yeah,
Right.
those things do happen. But the
Hmm.
more you plan, the less headaches that you can have. So what's new at Rentelco? You guys going to be going into any new kind of things or any new, I almost said features, but not features, any new services you guys plan on offering soon?
As far as services, I don't know if there's anything new and wonderful other than, rental, lease, and sale that we're planning right now. From an equipment standpoint, one of the growing markets that actually some of these guys might be getting into is automotive charging station test. We're
Oh yeah.
we're we're starting to see those requests, and we're starting to tool up for those needs, and that's something that we see on the horizon as a big market, and we're getting ready to go there.
It's funny you mention that because in the ICT industry, you have contractors that only do low voltage, but then there's a lot of electrical contractors who do both electrical and low voltage. And some of them
Right?
listen to the show because I've gotten emails from them before. That's a good thing to know because you're right.
Yeah.
Because I live in a small little country town in a small little city in Central Florida that if I told you the name, I guarantee you never heard of it.
Okay.
Population of 5,000 people, and even
Hmm.
we have a Tesla charging station now. And I was like, don't they
Exactly.
know that most of the people in this town drive pickup trucks because we have
Right.
farms?
Right.
So
Well,
very cool.
your next pickup will be the F-150 electric, right?
It's funny you say that. I like that truck, but I saw a video on it on talking about the abundance of vehicles now, and there's they are charging 20, 30, and $40,000 over the list price for
Wow.
those vehicles right now. I was like,
Crazy.
and they said like
Crazy.
$90,000. I'm like, I am not spending more on my truck than I spent for my house. That's not happening.
I'd have to agree with you there.
Just there's something wrong with that, man. There's absolutely
Yeah.
something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Ben, it was a pleasure having you on the show, and we need to have you on again because I guarantee you I'm going to get some questions about this. And
I'd be happy to. Yeah. If
very
there's
cool.
any follow up, if you have anything that's specific that comes to you, feel free to forward it to me.
Okay.
Again, for the audience, it's Ben Hart at TRS Rentelco. Just look us up on the web or, contact Chuck and he'll get
Yep.
you over to
And I'll
us.
put all that information down in the comments below too. So that way, if you're driving somewhere and you're like, I can't write this down because I'm
Yeah.
driving, just come back to the video later. It'll be in the description section. So,
All
Ben,
right.
pleasure having you on, and we'll talk to you next time, friend.
All right. Thank you very much, Chuck.
So there you go. If you're on the fence about buying a tester, you have a way to try different testers without breaking the bank. Buying a tester is a significant investment. Or if you run into a problem, like we mentioned before, where all your testers are all out on projects and you have that one project and you've done, you have options. You have options. Till next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.